to Rooted. I'm your host, Ruth Roach, and this is where we get real with the people who make this industry what it is today. You know how they say great hair starts at the roots? Well, so do we. We start at the roots. Today, my guest is the incredibly talented Presley Poe, and we're going to dive deep into finding that perfect balance between creativity and technicality. We're also going to talk about the courage that it takes to follow your passion, and we chat about the complexities of career choices, dealing with public perception, and why community is so vital in the industry today. You'll hear Presley's insights on managing fame, nurturing client relationships, and creating supportive spaces where people can truly learn and grow. So let's dig in. Presley, welcome. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We've been trying to make this happen for a while now, and it's happening.
It's finally happening. All the happenings.
Yeah. So first, tell us how you got into the world of hair in the first place.
Oh, man. So I was 4.
Yeah.
And I had a Mima, because I'm from the Midwest, but everyone thinks they're in the South. And we would go to her salon every week to get her hair set, because she was like a little white-haired lady, yeah? And I went in, and I smelled perm for the first time. And that was it for me. I was like, whatever they're doing, I want in on that. And I would roll her hair on a pencil while she would take naps. And I'd be like, come on, Mima, it's time to do your hair. And she was an avid book reader, and I would just sit there and practice the moves of rolling her hair on a pencil while she was like just passed out. And I'm just working away. Just this little kid, just like, I'm going to do that. I'm doing that. Yeah, and it just turns out like some people like the smell of gasoline. I like the smell of perms. Like, whatever. It is what it is.
Oh, she's in the back sniffing perms. I'll go get her.
Yeah, if I do them on my client, if you're hearing this, clients who may come in, I'm like, I will smell your head. It will happen. It's real. And then, I think throughout my youth, I saw, the little, this is just what it is. The little Asian ladies who do hair in those really small spaces. And it's always just like her in the shop, like no one else is in there. And she's like, it's just a thing. You see it around. And I saw this tiny little Asian woman on a stool, and she whipped over this cape. And I remember, I'm like in a car. We're in a moving car. And I watched this whole thing happen. She whipped over this cape, and she got her clippers out. She was moving them so fast on this person's neck. And I was like, I'm doing that. Like, I was like, that is like superhero shit, and I'm in. Like, I was like, whatever.
How old were you then?
I don't know, but I was definitely like young.
A kid.
Yeah, like, and I was like, that's it for me. I'm doing it. And I never let it go, which turns out that that's just how my brain works.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone know at that young of an age that they knew that's what they wanted to do, Yes. I never strayed from it. I wanted to be a hairdresser, a makeup artist, and a seamstress, and a bartender. And I wanted to do all of them. And I was a makeup artist for 13 years. I was a seamstress for 10 years. And I never got to bartending, but I cocktailed for, 12 years or so. And I'm a hairdresser. So I basically did all of those things for most of my career until the last 10 years. So the first 13 years of my career, I had like 4 jobs. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I was like very serious about it.
Yeah. So do you still do makeup?
No, I don't. And oddly, I just don't even really wear it myself. Like, I just don't. I don't. I think the thing is, I didn't like being so close to people's faces.
Yeah. You are pretty close, huh?
You're like up in it. Like, it's a thing. And I was just like, we didn't have masks back then. Like, we weren't wearing masks. And I think nowadays, I would just wear a mask.
Yeah.
And I would do it. But no, I don't do makeup anymore. And it's so much further than anything we were doing back then that I think I would just be like, I don't know, man. That's a whole lot of layers of a whole bunch of shit that I really don't care to put on your face. You know, like,
yeah,
I just don't.
you don't feel it. It's not
I don't
happening
feel
for
it.
you. Yeah.
But definitely going to sew. I am sewing again, which is cool.
Because we talked about that before you were going to get your machine out, start doing it.
I got
You did
'em.
it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
What are you making?
I'm making Baroque style curtains for my bedroom right now.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
See, I love it because people that are creative always have other things going on besides
Oh,
just
100%.
like,
People don't
yeah.
realize that. They're like,
Yeah.
they think that what they see on social media, that's it. You know, like that's their
Yeah.
whole life. And I'm like, dude, like I cook, like I'm really fluent in the kitchen. I love cooking. I'm like, I'm really passionate about a lot of different artistic mediums.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really think
Same.
I create art by doing hair. Honestly, no.
Do you feel like you're being creative?
No. I feel like I'm being technical.
Okay. Interesting.
I think like what you do, I think that's art with technical, right? Like I'm doing like geometry and physics and I'm just working with the elements and saying, what are they going to do? I think that the artistry behind what I do is the way that my brain formats the formula in which I use those technical things. But I think I struggled for a really long time with like what makes me feel like an artist. And I was like, I don't feel like an artist. And I was like, when I became an educator, I stopped feeling like an artist.
Mm-hmm. Because you had to
Education
explain
changed.
things?
No, because my brain formatted things differently. It went from feeling like organic in my mind to something that was like formatted and like logistical and, you know,
A system.
very technical and systematic. And it changed the way that I saw what I was doing. So I wasn't just like creating out of this like space of, you know, I think that these colors look beautiful here, here, and here. Now it's like all these different technical factors.
Yeah.
So
But
I was like, I need an outlet.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm going to disagree a little bit that
That's okay.
being technical is creative. You have to be able to
agree.
think, you know? So
Yeah, like Michelangelo was a technical mother.
he
you know
was
what I mean?
both. Yeah. He was like,
I actually saw a quote from him. And he was like, I'm going to misquote this, so don't. But it was something along the lines of, if people knew the treachery in which it took to create the work, it was something along the lines of like, he too was having issues of saying, it's not really art, it's like this technical thing that I can do that is presented like art to you. And I was just like, it's true, because he was so technical and he was so methodical. And it was very much, if you could, basically, I think the quote, if I interpreted it, was like, if you could see what I see, you wouldn't see it the same at all. Mm-hmm. Because he could see the thought process going into it was like, da. Personally, I feel like art is free. It's like to just step into a space and say, what's happening and how can I create something because I want. So when I was a seamstress and I would just create something that felt really good for me, even if it looked like something else, I was creating art. But as soon as someone said, can I commission you for this piece? And I'd say, okay, I did not feel like I was creating art anymore.
yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
Like, however, I may not feel like an artist behind the chair, but what I do feel is that I'm a conduit for someone else's expression of art, that I'm doing commission work all day long, you know? And so to feel like in my heart, like my soul is being fed by art, I need an outlet to just say, what is this fabric telling me?
Yeah.
If I stretch it this way, where would it fit in this room? Like the freedom of expansion instead of someone's asking me to perform something.
Right.
It's a compulsion to create. That feels like art to me.
Yeah. Well, and that totally makes sense. You have to know the things, right? You have to know the technical things to be able to create things, right? So I feel like that's why I feel like you got to have You
Both.
got to have both. And
You have to have both.
like you can, to create a piece of art with hair or whatever, can take months to figure it out, and it's
Totally.
like,
And
shit,
that's
when
art.
is this going to come together?
You put it together, the brain says, I feel compelled to do this. Oh, that didn't really work. And you have this kind of wiggle room, this flow.
Yeah.
It's like a poetry dance, right? And when I'm doing hair, it's very formulaic. It's like I need to get from here to here, and I need to do it within this time frame, and I need to do it in a way. I'm navigating 17 things. I'm not in free flow.
Yeah.
But when I stood in my room and I said, what does this space inspire me to do? And then I could have a vision and say, I want Baroque style curtains in here with tassels that hang this way. And instead of a headboard, I'm going to use plants. And, oh, that sounds beautiful.
Oh, cool.
Okay. You know what I mean? It's like I felt inspired to do this thing. Because even when a client sits and says, do whatever you want, it doesn't really work that way. It never works that way. They go, I just don't want XXXXXX. I have one client, and if I tried to explain to her what I was going to do, she'd look at me and be like, I'm like, okay, you actually don't care. I can do anything I want to. And she's like, literally anything. Now I'm going to read. Are you done? And I'm like, I love you. And I made some really incredible campaigns with her. I was like, that was art. Mary, love you.
Cool. Well, speaking of art, I have a painting behind me.
Oh my God, you do. And you look lovely against that painting.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Anyway.
It's a hair flip for me. I can't. They're probably like, why do you guys think this is so funny? I'm like,
we're cracking ourselves up. Okay. You were 4 years old as a kid. You decided to do hair. You were in Oklahoma City. You ended up in Portland. But you've been there for 10 years now, or no?
almost 11. So I was in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And then when vocational schools opened up, my parents didn't want me to go to the cosmetology school merged with my high school. So my stubborn ass said, that's real cute. And when I was 16, I moved out. I got emancipated and moved to put myself in cosmetology school. So I've been doing hair since I was 17 and I'm 40.
Oh,
like
amazing.
If I want to do something, you can't tell me that I can't. It won't work for you. I've been that way since I was little.
Same.
Yeah. So like if I said I want to do hair and they were like, you can't do it that way. And I was like, watch me. And then I did. And then I'm still doing it though. That's the thing. I'm like, dude.
That's what I think people in general feel like they can't do that. Like they shouldn't do that, or I should be conservative about whatever, like for me, I just blew up my life.
People,
again,
I didn't know that I was courageous. It takes courage to do that, to say at all costs, I will do what I feel compelled to do. People will shrink themselves. I just didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what shrinking myself was, but they will. They'll say, well, these were the circumstances of my life and I couldn't do it. And I'm like, okay.
Victim.
It's a victimization. And I think in some way, we all do it in some way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like,
doing it
please help me.
Ago.
It's like I try so hard and I pray so hard about it to like help me move past forms of victimization in my life and always take like radical responsibility and accountability for everything that I have in my life. And, people don't see where you come from. They just see where you are. And people didn't see me live in a closet, live on the streets, be homeless, put myself through school, have 5 jobs, work, 70 hours a week. They just see where I'm at now.
Right.
Not that I like gave everything up, moved out of my house and all of it just to do hair, and then, so interesting. But it takes courage to do you.
It does.
And not let anyone tell you who you are.
Yep. Did you ever have like a mentor along the way or anyone that said, hey, I believe in you, that kind of thing?
No. In fact, most of my life, I was hated by most people because I just don't really agree with how most people function in the sense that I just always saw a different route, and that doesn't settle well with people,
Yeah.
Like,
What makes
especially
people
when you're from
uncomfortable?
like this, it makes people very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just don't understand why you're so mad at me for thinking differently about it. Like, what's wrong with like not wanting to do that? People take it personally when you make a decision for yourself, which I think is really interesting. Like perfect example of my last post. I was like, what is happening? Like, okay. But yeah, it is, it's controversial to be independent and to be an independent thinker.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It's cool. We need that, you know?
We do need it. It just sometimes feels like a lonely road, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it takes guts, and it, like you said, it takes courage, and you're doing things. You can't be a people pleaser and do that. You know,
You literally
can't
cannot
do both.
You cannot do both.
Yeah. So
Like, you just have to be okay with pissing people off.
yep.
Like,
And that's
I don't understand why you're mad at me for not wanting to wear Wranglers and like being 4-H, but okay. Like, I don't understand why that makes you mad. Like,
yeah.
but you just learn eventually, like, oh, that's not my problem at all. That's yours. Like, I didn't say you were bad for doing it. I just said I don't want to. And you got offended. Like, what? That is bonkers to me. I don't understand.
That's a little cuckoo. So, along the way, right? Why did you move to Portland? What happened? How did you end up coming to Portland?
Well, you see what happened was
What happened is this.
my one of two ever boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
I was like 19 and he brought me to Portland. Actually brought me to Oregon. I don't even know that I was in Portland. And yeah, we came up here, and when I was riding in the car with him, staring out the window, when I saw Oregon, I was like, this is where I'm going to find a wife and have children. I just felt it. I was like, I love this place. Like, but it was a feeling of like, I'm in love with this place. Like, I will do whatever I have to do to be here. And I've only ever felt that way once at that point, and that was about hair. Like, whatever I have to do it, I'm going to do it. And then when I met Oregon, I was like, whatever I have to do, I'm going to be here. And when I'm here, I'm going to find my wife and have a child. And yeah. And so then it was like 10 years later, and I never let it go. And no one believed me that I would do it. And then I was like, okay, bye. And sold everything I owned. And I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. You didn't believe me. Good story for you. Watch me do the thing I said I was going to do. But I had to like get my mind right. You know, I was a hot mess kid. I had a lot of trauma to heal. And I did. I ended up moving and finding my way there 10 years later. Now I'm engaged. I found my wife. And
woohoo!
I know. I'm so excited.
So happy for you.
I'm so stoked. Yeah. Like, it only took 11 years and a couple horrific relationships, but whatever. Live and learn, right?
I'm still working on it.
I mean, girl, the rest of us too.
I had a psychic tell me once that I would fall in love twice, and once was like in my 80s, and then the next time was in my 70s. I'm like, thanks a lot, you know?
Epic.
Yeah, I don't think she knew what she was talking about.
I mean,
Anyway, we'll see.
you're like, girl, I'm 71 and I'm engaged. I'm like, cool. I'm in. I will be your flower child. I will throw the petals for you. Let's go.
Oh my God. As long as I don't trip on them.
I mean, I might be pulling one leg behind me at that time. We don't know how old I'm going to be. It's going to be, but I'm there. I'm in.
Okay. Awesome. So one of the things I love about how you think is your concept of working with hair in more of a scientific way. Do you feel like talking about that a little bit? Like,
sure,
explain your theory about that? Because we talked before about like I had a little bit of an engineering background. We were talking about kind of talking about physics and the sort of the science of that, and then also the creative thing we were just talking about, how it's both, you know?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that I was scientific or technical at all until I started training to be an educator, and then voicing my thoughts. I was like, because I was always like, I'm not technical at all. And so I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you are so unbelievably technical. Like, Presley, you're doing physics. And I was like, what's that? And I like looked and I was like, shit. Like I am thinking in physics, like trajectory, force, recoil, pressure, all these things. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. I love science, but I don't like it in every context. So it's like, it's so weird. My brain is so ridiculous. Like simple multiplication, simple math. It's like, what is that? I'm like, give me some chemistry. I'm like, watch me work. It's so weird. I'm like, if it's too simple, my brain's like, nope, do not compute. And I'm like over here, like, let's do chemistry,
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just been like a 10-year period of time that I started to really understand how I'm very fascinated with how things work and why they work that way. It changes how we think about it, right? If you know the elements that are in a rock, you're not going to look at that rock the same way. Take a diamond, it's like, it could just be a diamond in a whatever. But once you know about it, you're like, oh my God, it's a diamond, it's this precious thing. And so the more I learned about hair and doing it and questioning what I was taught, I was like, we've been lied to. It doesn't actually work that way, and everyone's walking around frustrated. So I just kept being like, okay, if they say that does that and that's not doing that, what is it actually doing? And then, the geometry part, which we already had, but we didn't have trajectory, force, and recoil. And that's the physics part of like, hair will naturally project itself. So that means that it's not your job. And then I started to realize, okay, so we're living in this world where we attach to negativity, right? It's like, oh, my hair is just so limp, it just does this, or it's so fine, or it's frizzy, or my curls like inconsistent. And like we sit down and we just start complaining about what we have. And I was like, what if we start looking at something of like, it's not just a fabric, right? It's wool. Like, what does wool do? What are the features and the benefits of this?
Yeah.
So it was just a way to start scientifically explaining and reverting conversation of like, actually, we are animals that grow fabric from our bodies. And I think we forget that. I'm like, if I go, our fabric, and people are like, fabric, and I'm like, okay, what is wool?
Right.
Sheep fur, right?
Yeah.
What is cashmere? Rabbit fur. Like, what is silk? It comes out the ass of a worm, okay? Like, you grow fabric. You can weave this. We do that in updos. We're weaving, and you can sew in hair. Like, and it's like, okay, so let's think about this from the science point of what is this type of fabric? What fabric are you growing? What's their trajectory, the natural trajectory of that hair? Are you 1, 2, or 3 dimensional? Okay. Now, what are the laws and fundamentals of how it all works? And then, what does the client want? And so I just created this way with the cutting wheel and the zonal placement to tell you when to put pressure, not to put pressure, what your job is and what your job is not. And essentially, our job as hairdressers is actually pretty freaking easy, unless you're working with straight hair all the time. That shit's hard because it doesn't do anything. Yeah. If you start working with curls and waves, now it's working for you.
Yep.
It's like, oh, it's going to lift itself. Cool. I don't have to. Straight hair, you have to get it to lift up. So it's just a mix. Everything has a double side. So it's like straight hair might not lift itself, but it silks out easy. Whereas curly hair lifts itself, but it doesn't silk out as easy. So everything's just like kind of same, but polar opposites. And depending on what someone wants, the more natural they wear their hair, the more easy it is going to be to work with.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to quit?
Yeah, I think when it was like 10 years, I was like, what am I doing? Like, is this what I want to do? Because I was at a crossroads. It was either open a shop where I was going to be a seamstress full time or move and chase down what I now have. But I didn't even know what I could have. Like, what I had no idea that my life would be like this, but I just wanted to teach. And I was like, well, okay. So I made a decision, and then you make it the right one, right? But at the end of the day, hair's always one. It's just always one, you know? And then I think sometimes, like right now, so now I'm 24 years in. So is that almost my second 13 year? So I'm trying to look for the cycle in that. I'm just at like an interesting crossroads with like my own, like what I'm doing. It's almost like a midlife crisis. Just like, what am I doing? Not that I don't want to do hair, not that I don't want to do exactly what I'm doing, but the capacity that I do it, how I'm doing it, where I'm doing it. It's just very interesting to be in this kind of like segue again of like, okay.
What's next?
What's next? Even though I know what's next, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like I really don't like certain aspects of what I do. And I want to get out of it, but it's almost like how, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the rat race. I don't want to be in a rat race. And I don't think I have to prove myself at all anymore. Not that anyone actually does. You don't need to prove yourself, people. Okay, I'm just letting you know that. Don't spend your life doing that, because then you come into a place when you realize that you didn't need to and you don't have to, and then you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah, don't waste time doing that.
And
for sure.
I'm just like, okay. It's interesting to be in a position where you feel like your name almost supersedes you. Of like people go, I made a post and I said, due to inflation, I will not be raising my prices.
Oh, yeah.
No one asked why or how I was absorbing costs. They just assumed that I had this great privilege that I could do that because I'm Presley fucking Poe.
Right.
This is a small portion of the people who are on that. But I got an inbox and I was like, whoa, dude. Like, that was really heavy. They were like, that was very patronizing of you. You're so privileged. And I was like, wow.
What?
Okay.
Ugh.
Like, and I was like,
wow.
Did anyone read the caption where I'm like, hair is my advocacy. It's how I give back.
Right.
I will take a seat back for the greater good. Like, I will. Like, during COVID, I taught 90 free classes. 90. I taught a class every single day. I was like, I don't care. Like, my community needs this. Like, it's how I've rolled everything I'm passionate about into one career path. And I just don't like that when you can scream love from a rooftop, it's like people will still hear something. They'll filter it through hate. And that part is really hard sometimes to sit in.
And you, because you're so, you know, everybody knows who you are and you have, God, I wouldn't be able to look, you know, that kind of hate, like you said, is just, it's cruel. It's like, why, you know?
From a compassion standpoint, it's not actually me. It's a filter. I saw this quote and it said, heal so you can hear the words of the universe without the filter of your wound. And that's it. It's not me. I said something that was activating to people because of their wounding around that situation. And so instead of asking, how are you able to afford the opportunity to do that, so that maybe if I felt compelled to do the same, I would have the same tools and resources. Like, social media comes with a lot of assumptions about things. You know, it's like people see that you travel and they're like, oh, you travel, you do this. I'm like, yeah, but like, you can get on Google Flights and put a marker in $200 with a time spread and it'll tell you when tickets are that low. You know what I mean? Like, there's just resources to be able to do it, but people will judge you based on their knowing of how things work. And when people feel very victimized by their circumstance, they get angry at people who they perceive to be in positions of privilege and power. Yeah. And I think that everyone has privilege. Right. Of like, yes, some people have more privilege than others, and some people have worked to be in these positions, yes. But it's weird for people to just be like, oh, you're this because people know who you are. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
When
I
really
just
it's
think,
just, I'm a hustler, babe. I just want you to know. Like, I've been living on the streets since I was 16. I got this shit. Like, I know how to turn a nickel into a dollar. And that's just
yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
facts. I'm like, and instead of picking a fight, you could ask for the resources and I will give those to you. But it just doesn't really work that way sometimes. And I feel like that's the rat race. It's like, not everyone wants to hear the truth, and not everyone wants to be in the room with light because they choose darkness. That's
yeah.
hard.
Well, that's one of the things I love about you is that you just put, you're just you, and that takes a lot of courage. No, it's like you're not trying to be anyone else or
I wouldn't
I
know
don't know.
how.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. It's like
I do.
you don't present one way here and then another way there. You know what I mean? So far that I know, you're just you
No.
and beautifully you. It's just perfect. So,
Well, you're biased, and I like that about you.
but you know
Well,
how
thank
everybody
you.
wants that kind. I think it's really important what you just said, because a lot of people want to be an influencer like you, and what comes with it, what comes with fame is some of the stuff you're talking about. You're just
Like, if I break
exposed
this
to a lot
down
more
to people. Yeah, I'm like, here's the thing about fame. All it means is that people know who you are. It doesn't mean you're going to make a boatload of money. It doesn't mean anything. If you look at some of the people from, like, what are those reality TV shows, like the 16 and Pregnant? Okay.
Yeah.
I've done TV shows and I didn't get paid shit.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nada.
Yep.
And I won. And I didn't get the prize for 4 years. Like, it doesn't work that way, and people don't know that when they are only seeing this picture of something. And then they're like, well, that's what you presented. I'm like, well, it's not my responsibility to share when I poop,
Right.
Like, why would I do that? Like, I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, hey, you guys, I had a real shit day. And I took a couple earlier, and I just thought you should know because I'm trying to humanize myself. Like, no, that is like, it's not a thing.
No.
Like,
You got to draw the line somewhere.
literally.
So it sounds like, when I asked you, have you ever felt like quitting, and you said all the time.
All the time.
It's like, yeah. I mean, I had someone tell me the other day, a friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in a while, she goes, oh, it looks like you're having fun. Everything looks great. It looks like you're doing great. And I said, that is marketing. That is social media right now.
Yep.
And I am having the hardest time in my life that I've had in a long time. And you know what I mean? It's just,
that part.
it's so,
I was like,
yeah.
it is hard for the thought that just because you're Ruth Roach, like, you are the shit. Like, you go out there, you slay it. You are so good. You've worked on the biggest stage with the biggest things, with the biggest awards. You are like the pinnacle of success out there, right? And you're like, I'm having a really hard time.
Yeah.
And someone literally said, like, people like you don't depend on your clients. People like you have these whatever, like, you look rich, you look like money, you look like you have this, I'm like,
wow.
Okay, wow. And I was like, that is not my responsibility. I do depend on my clients, and if you actually knew me, you would know that they're the bread and butter of what I do, and I've always advocated for them to such a degree that I'm like, if it came between teaching and clients, I would choose clients. If it came between traveling and clients, I would choose clients. I would pick them, bar none, over everything, because they are the thing that will keep me alive always.
Yeah.
Like, there's never been a moment that I was like, I would give them up,
Yeah. I love
it's
that.
why it took me 10 years to leave, because I was like, these are my family. I had full books. It was very difficult for me to leave them. Extremely difficult, because I know the power that they have over my life. I would be nothing without my clientele.
Oh, I love that.
Like, they raised me. They were my mom when I didn't have one, my dad when I didn't have one, my resources when I had none. They've helped me get jobs. Like, they put food on my table for my whole life. Like, I don't take that for granted whatsoever. And when we're all having a really hard time, and I'm like, I'm not going to raise my prices this year because there's inflation, it's because I don't want to price them out.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
no, like, what can I do? Because you've given me so many years of your service. Like, how can I be of service,
Nice. That's really nice. You're just so refreshing. So talk about Presley Poe and Friends, because that's coming up. And how did that get started? Like, why did you start that?
Girl, because I'm crazy. I don't know. It's like my love child. And so, okay, I did a podcast with Artistry, and they like thought I was some cool kid, and I was like, I don't even know who I am. Like, you guys are super cool. Like, who are you guys? Like, I've never done a podcast before. This is neato. Like, you think I don't know. So anyway, we did the podcast, and I just thought, like, I thought they were so nice. I was like, oh my God, those are like the nicest guys ever. They are so cool. And then I was like, I told them, I said, I think you guys are onto something, because people only see the success and we don't have our story told. Like, people are like, oh, you're pretentious or this or that or whatever. And like, they don't understand the grind and the hustle. I said, and you're giving us this space to share not just like our story, but to inspire other people who could have been where we are, to that, like, it's possible to do that. And I was like, and I just think that's so special. So we separated, the show was over, and I went home, and I was on the treadmill at the gym, and I was like, how are they being funded? And so I looked them up, and I called them on Instagram, and they're like, oh shit, Presley Poe's calling us. And I was like, hey, what's up? And I'm just here on the treadmill, what's happening? And I was like, I have a question. How are you being funded? And they're like, we're not. And I was like, so how are you going to stay going? And they're like, we don't really know, but everything's out of pocket right now. And I was like, I don't think that'll do. I think we should have a hair show. We should get some sponsors. And we should like make you some money, because I think what you're doing is so important. And literally no one in the industry was doing it at the time.
No.
And I was like, you're giving us a voice. And I was like, and I just really respect what you're doing. And I don't know, I just felt really compelled to reach out. And I was like, I had this idea. I think we should have a show. And it all sounds so easy. Have a show, get some people together, rent a space, get some sponsorships. Holy cow. That shit, it is, we are 6 years in, and let me tell you right now, it is not that easy. It is a grind. I respect the shit out of people who put shows on,
It's a lot.
And even some of the biggest people we have in our industry, and I'm sure y'all know who I'm talking about, like, I would not, it's insane to put those shows on. And it's like, we just have a little 250 people show, and it's wild.
Yeah.
Because you still have to work until they know your name. But yeah, so we ended up having a show, and I was like, okay, well, my name is attached to this, so I would like to be the artistic director. Yeah. And I was like, I think this is what I'm really good at, and this is what I've wanted to do. And they were like, okay. And it took us 2 years for us to even figure out what our roles were. Like, okay, who's our CFO? Who's the artistic director? Who's the one in charge of marketing? Who's doing this? Because we were just like, well, this should be easy, they said. And then we're like,
yeah.
But now we found a really great footing, and it's been so amazing. And the whole show is, it's so cool to see so much love in a room. Like, when I talk about it, I'm like, Presley Poe and Friends is for the radically self-accountable. It's for the people who want to show up for themselves. It's for people who want to support people. I'm not with you. If you come in with your drama, you can get out. Like, this is about talking to the person next to you, real and solid education. It's about, like, come as you are, like, take up space. Like, it's just like a super supportive environment, and it's really, really wild to see it like come together and have such an impact, because we've really struggled with, like, how do we explain what this is to people? Because it's not just a hair show. It's like, it's a heart show, It's like, and it's like an emotional roller coaster. And
And do you do it just once a year, or do you do it more than
Yeah,
once
we
a
do
year?
it in Maryland once a year, and we do it every April. I really believe that like the spaces that we put ourselves in like carry so much energy, and like everything comes from the top. So the woman who runs it, her and her husband Charles, she's just like this 5'2", feisty blonde, and she just runs the shit out of that school. And it was a Freemason building, so she was the first woman to ever step foot in there, and then she turned
Oh,
it into a
wow.
cosmetology school. Beautiful, and it's just really incredible. And the whole room of the goddess room where we hold the show was hand painted by an 80-year-old woman.
Whoa.
I'm
How
telling you,
cool.
like all the elements of this school, I'm just like, this is it. Like, I love this place. I love the story. I love the history. I love how it feels when you go in there. It's like how the floors creak. It's just so like, it's so good. And it's just it feels like such an empowering space. And I love working with Sharon, the risers in general. They're just
Yeah.
like, they're life changing. And those kids, let me tell you, so she has like 200 students there at all times. And when I taught there the first time, she was like, okay, Presley, she's like, I want to take a picture with the class. She goes, so you stand here. I'm like, yes, ma'am. And then she goes, okay, class. I stood there, and under like 2 minutes, 200 students filed in perfectly behind me. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is wild. Like, okay. Cause we're like herding cats, girl. You can't get hairdressers to do anything. Like, we're like,
No.
yeah, cool. I'm on my own time. But they respect her so deeply that, like, if Sharon says jump, they're like, yes, ma'am. And I just think that is amazing. I just
That's so
love that.
cool. So, so how do people get tickets if they want to go?
They just visit presleypoeandfriends.com. Super easy peasy, and get their tickets to the show. And then there's classes after the show. So the first night is the show, and it's a good teaser because the next day you get to learn those techniques hands-on with our artists. So we've got some really incredible artists coming in. Jeremy Stevens, oh my God. He's like one of those, not a lot of people know who he is, but he's like epic. Like, he's so good at what he does. If you want to attach yourself to someone in a room that's just like easy to talk to, like you're like, I'm nervous, who do I talk to? Go hang out with Jeremy. He just makes everything easy. He's just the best. And then like we have Emily Chen coming in, and she's also incredible. And has a really beautiful story. I mean, the way she talks about hair, the way she projects herself, it's like she's like finding her voice in the most beautiful way, and she's just like doesn't give a shit, but she gives all the shits, Just like just really authentic. Amazing. Yeah. And then we have, who else do we have this year? So we've got Emily, Jeremy, we've got Los Cuts It. Oh my God, his work is just phenomenal, and he's going to show us how he does it. Like,
cool.
It's real. He does not augment that stuff AI. Like, it is real. It looks like that. It's crazy. And he's a phenomenal speaker. Like, he will hold the capacity of a room so beautifully. And my soon-to-be wife is going to be there, and she's going to be doing sound bowls. So we're going to be doing a lot of like energetic work and stuff. So it's going to be really cool. Yeah.
How cool.
I'm very stoked.
And then what else is going on in your world?
Oh my gosh. I'm here in Oklahoma working with the Andrew Gomez Foundation, and that's really special to me because it's a nonprofit and I get to work with students. So I'm doing that.
I love the Andrew Gomez Foundation.
I know, it's so good. Like, I feel so honored to be a part of it. Like, what a privilege, to be a part of the school system. Like, it's really magical. And then, it's been really incredible to do that with the Andrew Gomez Foundation. And then the other thing is I'm getting my online academy going. So I'm working with my web developer and Elizabeth Faye, who is just like the most magic. And we're getting the academy up and going. So I just got my studio up and going. And then as soon as I get back, I've got a couple male models that I'm doing. Doing this whole academy online. It's going to be epic. I'm like really excited about it. Yeah.
I can't wait to see what you do. Because it will be, I'm sure it will be epic. Can I take it? The classes?
Oh my God, do whatever yes.
I'm going to ask a lot of annoying questions.
Nothing is annoying in my classes.
Excuse me.
Sir, person. Hey, teacher.
But
what are that? But how do it work?
Oh my God. Well,
the thing is, like, I'm about that though. Like, if you come to my class, I'm like, ask the questions. I'm so
Yeah.
thorough that I don't actually have a lot of questions asked because I'm just explaining everything the whole time that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you guys, like, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm holding it here. This is what it's going to do when it's over here. And this is what it's going to look like when it falls. And this is like the trajectory. I just like explain it all. Like it's, you know, I've been to classes where it's like, I didn't feel like I learned anything. And then I've asked questions and they literally acted annoyed. And I was like, okay, maybe
I remember when I was with Sam Villa and you came into the room, you were in the audience and you go, hey,
I got a question. You know,
I loved it. It's like...
because I just like, listen, I belong where I am.
Yes.
You know, like,
yeah.
I'm in this classroom. I'm going to take that opportunity to ask the questions to the masters who are on that stage. I want in your mind. I want to know what the hell is happening in there so that I can like compute what's going on, you know?
That's the thing. It's what goes on in between your ears and then what your body knows to do. You know, it's like those are the things that make something you know, that manifests the hair that you're trying to do, right?
Exactly. And like, you can watch someone do hair all day. You can watch my reel. You can watch you do something, but there's like a whole thought process behind that, you know, that I'm like, I want in on that, you know?
Yeah.
I want to hear the thoughts and then I want to watch how the hands move. But a lot of times when we're in classroom settings or just watching, and we just watch what someone's doing. But intentionally watching is like, how are they moving their hands? What's the placement of their body? What's the energetics of the situation? And what is their thought process while they do it? Not what is actually being done. Because you need to know the why to know that the when. Otherwise, you just know a technique.
Yeah.
And then you can only think about it in that one capacity. In that one place, right? This is how you do a fringe. This is how you do a fringe. But the greats go, but what if you do it here, 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 here? And people think it's like this mind-blowing magic trick.
Yeah.
But they know that like if it works here, it works there. And if it works there, it works there. You know?
Yeah. Yep. So cool.
Yeah.
So what do you have any advice for people just starting out in the industry? Any advice for them for their career?
It is highly controversial, but do not niche down.
Yeah. I agree.
Do not niche down. Do not niche down. Because it will pigeonhole you. Like, you're going to learn all that stuff, then what? Because what happens is when you want to shift and you want to pivot, people don't like change.
Yeah. And they'll think you don't know how to do anything else, right?
That part. If you only post one thing, they will think that that's all you do and that's all you know how to do, and you won't get other opportunities. Niching down puts you into a pigeonhole situation. It will build you fast, but it will slow you faster.
That's profound. That's profound.
I want to do this
a
for
mic
my
drop
whole
moment.
life.
Yeah.
I want to learn my whole life.
I'm with you. I want to go sit in one of your classes and see you do you, because I mean, I see you, you know, video and all that stuff, but to see you in person has got to be incredible. So I'm just going to have to make that happen.
I mean, listen, you're welcome anywhere I am. I'll take it.
Thank you. Same. All right. So I can't believe our time is coming to a close. We're going to have to do a part 2 because we have a lot to talk about, you know.
On part 14 of the Ruth and Presley Poe show.
Yeah.
We're talking about these controversial things.
I think it's cool. I think we should do more of it.
Absolutely. I'm 100% in.
All right, Presley. Well, thank you for being so open and sharing so honestly and openly about you and your beliefs about what we're doing here in this industry of ours. And thank you for doing what you're doing and really lifting up this industry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Until next time.
It doesn't always feel like it. So I'm glad that I am making a positive impact.
You are making a huge positive impact, and thank you for that, because we need you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Bye.